Hi, how are you? My name is Janine Ju. I'm Head of Developer Evangelism at Samsung ARTIK Cloud. And welcome to our webinar on Smart Home 2.0. I'm really excited about this guest speaker. I met him at an IoT conference in Chicago, and he gave such a wonderful talk on Smart Home 2.0 and home assistance, and I really just wanted to share it with our audience. So before we get started, some upcoming events. We're starting our Ask an Expert series with ARTIK Cloud in July, and we'll have two separate scheduled webinars to answer any questions you may have about our product or any technical support you may need. And we'll also talk about what's new in IoT and also what's new in ARTIK Cloud. We also have a guest speaker from IoT Techstars in New York, so that date will be determined sometime in the beginning of July. So I'd like to introduce you Mesut Eraslan. He's the Senior Director of Design and Engineering at Flex, and he'll be talking about Smart Home 2.0, the impact of home assistance on the connected smart home landscape. Thanks so much, Mesut.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Mesut Eraslan. I work at Flex Innovation Labs. And I'm going to talk to you about something I call Smart Home 2.0, which are the home assistants and its impact in the smart home landscape. I'm broadcasting to you from Milpitas, California. Now, first, a disclaimer, all the information presented in this presentation is collected from publicly available resources. So my company, Flex, do not claim any relation with any of the companies mentioned except Link, which is a subsidiary of Flex. And this presentation do not reveal any information regarding future plans of our company and its customers or its subsidiaries, and neither me nor Flex is getting paid about the things we're going to discuss today. A little bit about me. I have 18 years of experience in technology, business, and product management in consumer, medical, and industrial applications in various companies. And I'm now in Flex, and I have a mixed background of business and engineering. Things to discuss today in this presentation is the smart home growth. We'll just briefly mention this. One problem of the smart home adoption from the user perspective, current solution that's addressing that, and the upcoming solution, what I call the Smart Home 2.0. We'll give some examples, why now and how, use cases, and a little word of caution. To start with the smart home growth, there are many market reports that you can find that claim huge potential, huge growth in the upcoming 5 to 10 years horizon. IoT will bring 50 billion connected devices, household penetration will be significant, and many consumers plan to add smart home devices into their houses. And the revenue is significant. But what we need to question in these reports is we need to ask, what is the hurdle this industry will face in achieving this growth, and how will it overcome these hurdles? I can think of many, and probably you can think of many as well. So we'll just touch base on one major one today, which is the user interface. It's a major one since it affects the purchase decision of the consumers. Let's ask first the question of why smart home? Why consumers want to adopt smart home at the first place? Isn't this the fundamental question we product managers need to ask? According to research from Park Associates and BI Intelligence, which these are public information, that many Americans, especially Americans, feel the need to purchase these devices for their security, personal and family security, and property security. And secondary, there's the energy resource management, which is reducing their maintenance cost of their houses. And the third biggest reason is indoor convenience. So if you look at the survey of consumers who are planning to purchase a smart home device, most of them are related to security. Even the light bulbs, because they want to adopt a dynamic activity simulation in their houses while they're away, which is tied to their security. But as many of these devices get purchased and installed, the largest barrier to the growth of smart home is the technological fragmentation in the ecosystem, as well as consumers needing the know-how to install these devices, connect these devices, and make them work together. So a tech-savvy person might be okay doing this, but the average consumer is having a hard time doing that. So the current solution to this and also to the app congestion is combining all these controls into a single phone application, which is, Apple has the HomeKit, Samsung has the SmartThings, Wing has the Wing Hub. And this depends on the smartphone and using a finger interaction. This does most of the back-end modification and adoption of the devices and gives the consumer a one-stop shop almost for controlling their devices. But going forward, as you might have followed from the marketplace, that there's a simpler UI that's coming, that has already come, which is the voice control. It's simple because instead of finding your phone, opening an app, even if it's a single app, and finding the icon, clicking and playing with the settings, you can just tell to Amazon Echo or Google Home, turn on the lights at the kitchen. Much simpler. However, while these voice-controlled smart devices are increasing in shipments, a success of Amazon Echo, then Google Home, then now Apple HomePod, there is still one question. How do we solve the problem of setting up the devices? As you see in the right-hand side, these smart speakers are used mostly for information and audio, and less likely to use for controlling the smart home devices. So although the user interface is simpler than the smartphone, it still needs to get over the hurdle of setting up the devices. So I think we clarified the problem, which is we need a simple UI to manage many devices. We need a way to ease the setup of these devices, and also since smart home devices, the hubs and control, it tend to be expensive. We need these devices to do more than just controlling your smart home devices. So that's what I call the Smart Home 2.0 home assistance, and it's practically a brain for your house, the artificial intelligence running in your house, and there's a visualization of that where the users can interact, talk, and this device can help users with many tasks at the house. So what's a home assistant? It's the visualization of the brain that helps homeowners in daily home activities. And there are many examples already in the marketplace. In the ideation space, these didn't hit the market yet, but the potential is significant. So you're seeing 3 examples here from Zembo, Buddy from Blue Frog Robotics, and Jibo from Boston. So if you remember that chart where it showed home security is one of the main reasons for purchasing these digital devices. So this home assistant needs to be in charge of home security if you want consumers to purchase these. In addition to that, it can do, patient monitoring and utilities management, as well as help setting up the devices, kids education and entertainment, baby monitoring, elderly monitoring, and many more things. So it can be a new platform for app development. So we had the PCs first, then came the smartphones for app development. Now it's the smart speakers, and the future can be these home assistant devices.
Mesut, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you
Yes.
be able to turn up? We just got a couple of the sound's a little low. Could you turn up the volume so we can hear you better?
Okay, let me shout a little bit because I don't know how to turn on the voice.
Okay.
The microphone is at the maximum right now.
Oh, okay.
I'll shout if it helps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So I call these home assistants because we shouldn't call them robots. Why? There's an unpleasant consciousness in the public against the words robot and AI. People might not want to buy a robot for their houses, as opposed to a cute little home assistant, which sounds more like a helper, as opposed to something coming out from a Hollywood movie. Similar to the autonomous cars, right? Autonomous car is a robot actually, but we don't call them robots. Also, don't design a human-looking device yet. When it has arms and legs, as many of our Japanese colleagues are trying to do, it increases the expectations of movement capability. And if it doesn't fulfill that expectation, the user gets disappointed. And also, there's a species confusions in the human brain. When we see something looks like a human, we expect it to act like a human, and the technology is not there yet. In the current landscape, as I mentioned, there are many companies developing these platforms. Starting last year and this year in CES, there were many new entrants, and going forward, there will be many, many more. So the big question is, who is going to be the leader in this ecosystem? And as you see, recently Amazon released a device called Echo Show, which is on that path. Although it's not moving, it's not turning, it's not interacting as we would expect a home assistant would interact, it's still on that path. Now, why is it the right time now? Past 5 to 10 years, the industry developed significantly in machine vision, speech recognition, cloud computing. There's a ton of research done on artificial intelligence. The connectivity is going faster and faster with low latency. And most of the sensors and processors we need to adopt in this device is going down in prices. They are becoming very affordable, miniaturized, so that we can build these devices at a reasonable cost that the consumers can afford, and with a small form factor. What are the technologies required to do a home assistant? First and foremost, it's the imaging and understanding. There's the hearing and understanding as well, and verbal communication. So you need image processing and speech processing. If you develop a tabletop device, you don't need navigation, but if it moves around, that is a huge value to the consumer for the reasons we'll discuss later. Let's look at the example use cases. And the first and foremost is smart home hub and easy setup of other devices. So this is a hub, as you can see, to control all the devices in the house and also monitor all the devices in the house. So the intelligence in these devices should alert the user without expecting a command from them. And to help the users to set up the device automatically. For example, when the user buys a smart light bulb from Best Buy and comes to or Amazon.com and brings it to the house, it shows the box to the Home Assistant. Home Assistant understands from the picture, from the video, what product that is, and downloads the skills automatically from the server website of that device supplier. And when the user turns on the device or push a setup button, the Home Assistant automatically sets up the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or any other connection type to communicate with that device. Since Home Assistant will have the information of the user, the names, the addresses, the Wi-Fi password, it will allow it to quickly set up the account and configure the device. What's more, Home Assistant can geotag the device where it's installed. Is it a kitchen? Is it in the bedroom, living room, garage? Home Assistant, through image processing, will tag this so the user doesn't need to do extra steps in order to introduce the device to the hub. So that will simplify setting up smart devices at the house tremendously. Now, in the home security use case, this device or these devices will be on 24/7. They will be battery powered. They'll be mobile, going around the house. If you think of an IP camera, you set up the IP camera to a single location, and it's in that location. So you need to purchase multiple IP cameras. You need to set it up different places in the house. But when the Home Assistant is mobile, it can go anywhere you want, from commands that you give remotely or while in the house. It cannot be easily bypassed by cutting a cord or entering a security code, because it has face recognition, it has speech, speaker recognition, so the intruders cannot bypass it that easily. And at the place of the incident, the Home Assistant can go to, for example, it hears the breaking of a window, it can quickly travel to the location and give you a live video feed, as opposed to IP cameras, which doesn't have that capability. And also, when you're out of the house, allowing your service people to enter the house, it can monitor those people, what they're doing. Are they cleaning? For example, the cleaning lady comes in the house, they're doing the cleaning, and it can track if they're cleaning the right places, if they are not, if they are going to the places, the bedrooms, or through the closets of the bedroom, or not. And it will be a deterrent as well, that they won't even intend to do anything they shouldn't. There are many examples in the website, in internet, of these use cases that you can look up. Also, another good use of it, if you have a vacation home that you don't go often, and weather events happen like the hurricanes or other events, you can monitor those through this, and you can monitor what the house is doing and take appropriate actions. Another use case is healthcare. as you know, the healthcare cost in this country is very high and going even higher. And healthcare professionals, insurance companies are trying to move people from the hospital to the house, to the home, as soon as possible to reduce the healthcare costs. Now, these devices, these home assistants, can help with that movement as well as monitoring the elderly for accidents. It can detect falls and unconsciousness in the house, whether it's elderly or a grown-up person, and contact the emergency services as soon as possible, or the dedicated people, and send live video feed from any angle. If you have an IP camera or if you have tabletop devices, you can't do that very easily. You can simply do video calls with doctors and therapists. You can track the medicine usage and location. And you can actually, the insurance companies track people if they are taking the medicine or not. A pill dispenser can just dispense the pill, but you need information if people who might be forgetful, are they taking their medicine, or do they just forget it, or do they just take the pills and go away or throw away or put it somewhere and forget to take it. Connect to medical devices, of course, and connect to the hospital doctor network for remote patient monitoring. Now the doctors can have easy access to your house wherever you are. You're lying on the bed, you're in the couch, you can connect to the doctors. There can be modules installed to these home assistant devices, and these devices can help with the physical therapy to understand if you're doing it right, your form corrections, and so that you don't need to travel to a physical therapist to get your therapy. You can do it at home with tracking from these devices. Now, one of the most important things is data for the medical insurance companies. Of course, you need to opt into this, but the data this home assistant collect can reduce your medical insurance premiums. One example, many people might lie about smoking in their declarations, but this device can actually track if they are doing that at home or not. Another use case, the final one we'll talk about today, is utilities and disaster management. Saving money is a motivation to spend money on these devices and also protecting the earth. So since these devices will know where people are at any time in the house, they can better optimize the usage of the utilities. And also it can feed back information to the utility companies, how many people are in a particular house, and what they are doing, what I call micro user data, which the current devices doesn't collect or unable to collect today. Even for the communication companies, they will be able to utilize such data. And also disaster management, for example, God forbid an earthquake happened, or there's a fire and you need to know where the people are. These devices can tell the last known location of people in the house, so that the emergency crew can have access to that information when they arrive in the house. The use cases are more and more, and there are many videos in YouTube and elsewhere that show the use cases. Now the key is for the developer is to make these use cases usable, actionable, and flawless. Otherwise, the consumers are going to be frustrated, upset, and will not do a repeat purchase. Now, let's talk about the impact of these home assistants in the marketplace. Now, for OEMs, it's a blue ocean consumer market. It's a new hardware, new software, new service businesses, data sales, and increased ecosystem loyalty. I'm talking about Samsungs and Googles and Apples of the world. This will increase their ecosystem loyalty and sell new devices. Now, the phone market might have saturated, and there needs to be new devices to be developed and sold to the consumers. For manufacturers, of course, hardware sales. For semiconductor companies, more and more processing power required, more and more sensors required. So it's more sales, of course. For the software companies, it's a new app platform that you can develop and sell their apps. And new algorithms need to be developed for security or for education, for healthcare, and there will be more cloud use through these devices. For online retailers, there can be automated sales, and these are machine-initiated sales. So these machines can track the use, and based on the consumer permission, they can automatically order without the consumer's approval. For the communication companies, increased number of data plans because these devices will have a SIM card inside them. For the cases where the Wi-Fi connection is lost, these devices still need to be connected to the cloud to operate. Especially for the security feature, you cannot just depend on your broadband connection. You need a backup, which will be a cellular connection. For healthcare companies, online patient monitoring plans they can sell, which can be a new revenue stream for the hospitals, doctors, and also lowering the healthcare cost of the government and the insurance companies. In general insurance, for home and health insurances, they will have access to more data, more micro data of user experience. So this will need to be a negotiation of privacy between the insurance company and the user, and they need to figure out how they will bypass the privacy, not the bypass, but how to negotiate the privacy of people's lives in the home in return for lower insurance rates. And for emergency services, better data and easier way to save lives and increase number of lives. And for the environment, of course, energy saving, better utilization of the utilities. Now, this consumer robotics is planned to grow here. Unfortunately, the data shows it calls it the robotics, but the orange line is actually the home assistants. And people are already investing in this market. Hopefully, they will do a good job in the user interface in order to realize these numbers. The word of caution is, now these devices literally needs to be flawless. We have a very high bar of performance we need to achieve for consumers to adopt these devices. Now, many of the technologies, some might argue that used in these home assistants, some might argue that they are still in the inflated expectation curve, like machine learning, virtual personal assistant, as you see, conversational user interfaces, natural language processing. So we need to be very careful on the use of this technology for the use cases and manage the expectation right. If you see here from Boston Dynamics, They did a really good job developing this robot. However, when people saw this inside a house setting, they got the creeps. So please don't rush it, do it right, and especially do your marketing right. Now, what we need for success, of course, technology performance. That's number one. And number two is natural, practical, useful HMI design. If people cannot interact with these devices, if people do not like these devices, they won't adopt them, they won't buy them. We should not let users be frustrated or disappointed with these devices. There needs to be system compliance coordination between the IoT device manufacturers and the home assistant manufacturers. They need to develop connectivity systems and skills and applications that the home assistants can use to set up their devices. They need to develop probably a special operating system for the home assistants to behave, to act more efficiently. Today, many people use Android for the user interface and ROS for the coordination. We need to target the right use cases and flawless user operation. The right use case is very important because if, for example, if you develop your home assistant for entertainment, you need to make sure that people actually want to spend that money on that entertainment use case. And also the human psychology sensitive marketing. We need to be very sensitive to how people regard these devices because it goes into their home, into their private life, and their privacy is in the question. So they need to be beyond the smartphone or a tablet. These devices need to be like a friend to them. They shouldn't regard these devices as an alien or as a threat or an intrusion into their homes. And of course, reasonable market price. We need to be probably less than $1,000 or at the prices of a smartphone for people to purchase these. So that's my talk today. I hope it was informational for you and it touched on the key points how to develop these devices. And I welcome any questions right now.
Okay, so one question we have is there anything beyond voice-enabled home assistance? What about context awareness to suggest behavior without the need for users to give instructions?
Yes, that's part of this. We need to develop the complete artificial intelligence system and algorithms to install in these in order to support that use case and application. So there's still work to be done beyond just giving it commands and it to execute commands, but it's step by step.
So for these assistants, I mean, how far, you said there's still work to be done, so how far do you think we're away from having the perfect assistant with the right amount of artificial intelligence?
So there have been, so the idea has been floating around for a couple of years, and there are many example introductions. To date, I know only one that hit the market, which is Zembo in Taiwan, and it's doing some experimental runs. We'll collect information on that, how the consumers behave, how Zembo is interacting with the consumers, and what was the response. But probably a couple of more years for it to have really, really good interaction capability with the consumers.
That's great. Well, any other questions? Looking at the poll here. Okay, I think we're all set. Well, thank you so much, Mesut. Will you be sharing the slides?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Okay, and so just to let everyone know, we'll be posting the slides on SlideShare in order for you to view and download. And if you have any questions for Mesut, do you have a contact info and email?
It is, as you see on the screen, Mesut Eraslan at flex.com. You can send me any questions you want. I'll be happy to answer.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't see that on the screen because I had my other computer in front of me. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mesut. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for attending, and please stay tuned for. We'll also have a recording available to you within a week, an edited recording, and we'll also have the slides sent to you in a week as well. Well, thank you so much, Mesut, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay. Bye.